Lowe's knows July 4th savings are worth celebrating. Right now, get up to 40% off select major appliances and get an additional 10% off 2 or more select major appliances. Plus, get 3 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. These deals are coming in hot. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Hunt Palmer coming to you potentially from the Mercedes-Benz Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city. May potentially have some technical difficulties here that we're working through at the moment. But hopefully we're off and running here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Got a lot to do in the event that we're on the air currently. We'll figure it out one way or another. But today, going to talk with Sonny Shipp coming up in 15 minutes about Lamar Brown's commitment. It's What If Wednesday as well. Saints debuted a new helmet. Major League Baseball is going to use robot umpires for the All-Star game next week. Plus, got some more recruiting talk to get to. And Joey McGuire from Texas Tech had some things to say regarding LSU at Big 12 Media Days yesterday, so we'll get into all of that over the course of the next 2 hours. If you've got questions for What If Wednesday, go ahead and hit us up on Twitter or, of course, in the Bayou Ford chat right there on YouTube. We'll get to those. Got a lot of those coming in on Twitter either way here over the last hour. A lot of baseball questions, some football questions as well, including should the SEC go back to divisions, which is an interesting thought that I'll get to coming up here at 2:30. Again, our Wednesday show is brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Looking to get into the pool of your dreams? Renaissance Homes and Pools can make that happen for you. My guy Joey Blanchard has been doing it for decades here in Baton Rouge, and he can do it for you. If this time of year you're thinking about, man, it's hot, just would love after work to just take a dip. On the weekend, we'd love to hop in, grab a cocktail, or if you've got kiddos or grandkids, think, man, it'd be an awesome thing for them to do, kind of a big babysitter. Renaissance Homes and Pools can do that for you. Go see some of their great work and contact them at builtbyrenaissance.com. That's builtbyrenaissance.com. You can see just what's going on there at Renaissance Homes and Pools. Anywhere here in the Baton Rouge area, you can make that happen. Be the folks at Renaissance Homes and Pools, outdoor kitchens, swimming pools. It's all there. Renaissance Homes and Pools. They bring you our Wednesday shows each and every day. We'll get into it, I guess. Sitting here, I'm not even sure if the folks on YouTube got us, and I think y'all have us here terrestrially. Sounds like YouTube's up and running as well, so we're off and moving here. I want to talk about a specific soundbite that I heard yesterday that really piqued my interest. Now, the reason it piqued my interest is because it had some weight behind it. I have spent parts of 15 years in press conferences. I have listened to 15 years plus of interviews on the radio and on television, and I tell y'all all the time, even though I'm in the soundbite business, I find most sound bites to be pretty hollow. This day and age, people know how to answer questions without causing a stir, without creating a ruckus, without causing friction or controversy. And we'll sit at SEC Media Days next week, and we will hear a lot of coach speak. We will hear a lot of rehearsed player speak. We will hear a lot of sound bites that are, we're excited, we're confident, we're the best we've ever been. Don't want to say anything disrespectful about that team. Feel great about that team. They're going to be a tough team to match up with. We feel good about ourselves. You're just not going to get a lot of substance. Now, it's our job as radio hosts, as beat writers, as television broadcasters to get some of those good quotes out, and that's certainly something that we take to heart. But the fact of the matter is that no matter what you do at points, you can diffuse a question pretty quickly if you've been trained to do that, and a lot of athletes and certainly a lot of coaches have been. Now, Matt had Ori Williams on his show yesterday. Ori Williams, a redshirt freshman offensive lineman, and he was great on the show. I highly recommend you go back and check out that interview on demand if you can. I also wrote about it at LouisianaSports.net. If you'd rather read, I've got a lot of the best quotes that are in that story that I put up earlier this morning. He was great, but one of his answers very, very much stood out over the rest of them. Beck, do we have that sound? We can play it? Okay, now listen to Matt ask this question, and I'll tee it up here. Matt asked the question of Carius, of of Ori Williams, like, does anybody stand out among the young guys on the offensive line? And before Matt can even finish the question, Ori Williams blurts out an answer. And that, to me, means there's some substance there. Here's the question and the answer from Ori Williams.
Give me somebody, a name that, like, impresses you, that you go, dude, like, watch that guy. Athleticism, speed, power, whatever. Who? Say again?
Carius Curne.
Why?
Carius Curne. He's an athlete all around. He's a dude. You know, he's strong as ever. You know, and he just comes in with the right mindset and attitude every day, ready to work. And he can definitely move people off the ball. He's a freaking nature.
He said his name 5 times. Carius Curne. Carius Curne. Carius Curne. Carius. I mean, like, could not wait to get that name out. And to me, that means, okay, this is not a question that Ori Williams was prepared for. It's just not on a script. This is, he heard that question, and there was no doubt in his mind what his answer was going to be. It was going to be Carius Curne. And that is interesting to me because you are looking at an offensive line here that really doesn't return a starter. Like, yes, DJ Chester is returning. He was your center last year. Was he an all-conference center? No. Did they bring in a center that probably profiles as a better center in Braylon Moore? Yes. So that means DJ Chester probably moves positions, and that means you don't have a single starter back, okay? So it is a free-for-all on that offensive line as to who's going to get some spots. And right now, if I asked most LSU fans, myself included, to handicap that race on the offensive line, I'm giving you Braylon Moore at center. I'm giving you DJ Chester and Josh Thompson at the guards. I'm giving you Weston Davis and Tyree Adams at the tackles. I feel like that's likely the first 5 today. But I think you would be foolish to discount Paul Mabenga. Bo Bordelon has been here now for 2.5 years. Ori Williams is physically monstrous and has worked at guard now. Cohen Eccles got some snaps last year. And you look at the freshmen in Solomon Thomas and Tyler Miller along with Curne, and it's like, okay, there's a lot of depth there because I just gave you 12 names. So Brad Davis is a lot of guys. But if you want me to peg a guy that is likely as a young player to come steal some reps, I just take Ori Williams' word for it, quite frankly, because that was a very, very demonstrative answer to that question. We saw Curne a lot in the spring. We saw him working at guard. We saw him work a little bit at tackle as well. You look at his measurables, he's 6'5", 335 pounds. If you watch on the internet, he does backflips. If you saw the internet yesterday and today, he's throwing up massive, massive weight on the bench press. That's been shown. You're talking about a guy that can throw up 425 pounds with what looks to be fairly minimum effort. He athletically, strength-wise, the whole package is ridiculous. And there's a reason that On3 ranked him the number 1 interior offensive lineman in the country last year. And it's starting to show itself. And not only is he a freshman who is immensely talented as we sit here in July, he got the whole spring to work. So he knows some of the ins and outs of the offense. He's been in the strength and conditioning program since Christmas. He's worked at multiple places and for the coaching staff that's going to be coaching him this fall. All these pieces line up to me for a guy that could crack his way into the lineup pretty quickly. And to me, like, very, very rarely, like, I've never seen a Will Campbell situation. I've never seen a freshman offensive lineman come in and the head coach go to the microphone and say, 2 weeks into spring ball, he's the left tackle. Like, I've never seen that. But what you have seen a little bit more over the last few years, call it a decade, is freshmen coming in and playing on the offensive line. You saw Trey Turner do this as a redshirt freshman. Vidal Alexander played as a freshman. Of course, you know that you saw Will Campbell and Emory Jones play as freshmen. Like, we have seen freshmen come in and take snaps. And I feel like you could be looking at an Emory Jones type situation here with Carius Curne. Because Emory Jones was a high 4-star, 5-star recruit, came in, did not start the opener against Florida State, but they quickly looked at that offensive line and went, I think we can upgrade talent here. Boom. Put Emory Jones in there the second week. He never came out of the lineup. And I'm not telling you that definitely Carius Curne's going to start at Clemson. I'm not telling you he's definitely going to start in week 2 against Louisiana Tech or against Florida. He could, but it feels like at some point midway through the season, Carius Curne might find his way through. Because as I look at this offensive line that I mapped out to you with Moore at the center spot, Chester and Thompson at the guards, and Adams and Davis at the tackles, like Curne is as physically gifted as any of them, and more so than a couple. So it's not surprising when LSU recruits and develops a big-time offensive lineman under Brian Kelly. You just watched 4 of them that you could basically say LSU developed. That's 3 years for all 4 of them, at least, that had been at LSU. And they're all being drafted. It's just what Brian Kelly's system does. And Curne feels like he very well could be the next guy in line for that spot. So, I strongly recommend you go back and listen to Ori Williams. He was great on Matt's show yesterday. But that answer, where he demonstratively said Carius Curne's name 5 times, as someone who listens to press conferences for a living, I just went, oh, whoa, okay. There's something behind that. He's not just making that up. So, very, very cool, and feels like LSU's got a potential star there in Carius Curne. That is our Genesis opening drive here on this Wednesday. We are off and running. Apologize for that technical difficulty right there at the top, but we are moving along right now, and so we got a lot to do over the next hour and 45 minutes or so. We've got to do What If Wednesday coming up in 15 minutes. I've got some thoughts on the Saints' new helmet, automatic balls and strikes. We've certainly got another recruiting update coming at 2:15. We'll talk about Joey McGuire's thoughts on LSU playing at Texas Tech in the second hour. When we come back, big day for LSU's football program and Texas A&M's program tomorrow. Lamar Brown, one of the top players in the nation, set to announce just before our show starts tomorrow. Sonny Shipp's going to give us the latest when we come back. Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Look, insurance is not a lot of fun to talk about, I know. But I've seen it personally positively impact businesses by helping in a catastrophic situation. It is storm season. It's here. Don't wait until after that storm blows through to check your business interruption policy. Don't wait until that storm blows through to check your co-insurance penalties. Don't wait until that storm goes through to see what your wind and hail deductible or named storm deductible is. Do it now. And if you don't know where to start there, well, that's an issue. And the Highland Insurance Group is happy to help you with that. They audit policies, look at policies, review policies for free. So if you'd like a second set of eyes to make sure your business is in the right spot as we move into storm season, the Highland Insurance Group is happy to help you with that. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Find them online at HighlandIG.com.
Lowe's knows July 4th savings are worth celebrating. Right now, get up to 40% off select major appliances and get an additional 10% off 2 or more select major appliances. Plus, get 3 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. These deals are coming in hot. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
All right, we've got some technical difficulties on the ones and twos back there with commercials and stabs and all the sound effects here. Appears you're hearing me loud and clear, so I'm going to fill just a little bit here until we can work that out and get to Sonny Shipp, because it's obviously a massive day for LSU tomorrow. I'll say this before we get to Sonny. I like to read the other side of things. Not that Sonny works for LSU, but Sonny does cover LSU. And more likely than not, I certainly don't know Sonny's, I don't know his sources and wouldn't ask him that either. But you figure, you cover LSU for 2 decades, you got some sources in Baton Rouge, okay? And the folks in College Station that cover this have some sources in College Station. And I find it to be helpful and I find it to be informative, personally, to read both sides when possible. And I read the TexAgs report from today, and the general consensus was very similar to what we've heard on this show from Sam Spiegel, and we've heard from Sonny Shipp, what Shea Dixon has told Matt on his show. Like, there are some very similar things that are being said, mainly that it's very, very close. The A&M side said they felt like it leaned a little bit LSU, but that A&M was right in the middle of it, right? So you can tell that Lamar Brown has not tipped his hand to the media and has probably not tipped his hand to the coaching staff. Now, oftentimes when a player decides to commit, he tells the coaching staff before it happens. Sometimes the coaching staff has to watch the YouTube stream or the Twitter link or the Instagram feed or whatever like we do. It feels like in this case, Lamar Brown has played it very close to the vest. He may tell a staff tonight. He may tell a staff tomorrow morning. And if that happens, it probably leaks out towards the guys that cover recruiting. But right now, we've heard folks come on my show and say, okay, well, it's really close. And we've heard folks go on College Station shows and go, yeah, it's really close. The feeling is that LSU is an eyelash ahead, but that A&M's right in the middle of it. And it remains to be seen. It's going to come down to the wire. And as we will probably hear tomorrow, probably from me and probably from recruiting analysts, like no matter what happens tomorrow, nobody's just going to throw the white towel in and quit. But it feels like whoever gets the commitment tomorrow at least has the lead and has at least done enough to secure a commitment. So it's a big day. It feels like nobody really knows what's going to happen. But I felt better as an LSU guy reading the TexAg stuff, because if you felt like Texas A&M really had a ton of confidence, that would be really deflating to read from my perspective, because we know that the folks that cover LSU for all those outlets have certainly not come out and gone, LSU is definitely the team to beat here. And you never really know. I got offered a job to cover recruiting back in 2012. And I gave it a long, hard thought. And it would have taken me away from football, really away from basketball, and certainly away from baseball. And I thought, that's not really what I want to do. And at that point, I had a certain view of recruiting that was like, it's vital, and you've got to get it done. And it's maddening, but it's something you got to follow. And I've evolved over the course of 11 years to where now I look at it and I go,
you're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Okay. There is a stab. It works.
Sorry, yeah.
It's working well.
We were just testing it out to make sure it worked. And
it
worked.
did.
Yes.
So can we go to break and talk to Sonny?
Yes.
That'd be awesome. Let's do it.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lowe's knows July 4th savings are worth celebrating. Right now, get up to 40% off select major appliances and get an additional 10% off 2 or more select major appliances. Plus, get 3 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. These deals are coming in hot. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Wednesday shows brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Let's talk some recruiting. Sonny, Shipp, 24/7 Sports, going to have to give us a little bit of time here on this Wednesday, and it's a big one in his line of work as Lamar Brown set to make his announcement tomorrow early afternoon from here in Baton Rouge. Let's talk about it with Sonny. How we doing, sir?
Good, brother. How about you?
I'm good. It seems that a lot of folks are looking into this recruitment, but nobody seems to have a definitive lean. Is that where you stand?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that, and I kind of go back to where, pre-NIL era, when you would tell folks, 2 days before an announcement, like, look, this kid's going back and forth, and a lot of people would be like, there's no way this kid's going back and forth. There's no way. Well, and now I think they realize, because back then we knew that there was always shady stuff going on under the table in recruiting, and now you finally get to see that, yes, these kids are going back and forth, and a lot of that is because, offers change, better, opportunities change. And that's where we are at now, in this NIL era. And I think it's one of those cases with Lamar Brown to where you see A&M feel good, then you see LSU feel good, And there's a reason that that kind of waffling, I think, goes back and forth. And I think that's because Brown is giving those indications, that the pendulum has swung their way. And so I really look at this right now as both staffs are, like everyone is still working him, not just A&M, not just LSU. Miami's still chirping in his ear. Some other coaches are still trying to, see if there's an opening for them to get involved. And I really think that you're probably going to be seeing this mentioned in this manner all the way leading up to his announcement tomorrow.
So as far as the pitches go, both are looking for him to play defensive line. Am I correct? You're obviously in the same conference. You've got two coaching staffs that have now been there for a couple of years. Is there a significant difference there if we're talking outside of money, other than one's at home and one's kind of spreading your wings and flying the coop?
And just looking at this through, looking at it, I guess, through our untrained college football experienced eyes, you look at Mike Elko, and he's a very, very known, well-known D-line developer over at A&M as their head coach. I think that is a really big selling point for them. But then you look over at, LSU, and you're right there close to home. And so, that I think is the biggest factor working in their favor. And look, when you're talking the number one defensive lineman in the country, we know the premium that the NFL places on defensive tackles, kind of like offensive tackles, and so translate that to the NIL game, and you're going to have that same value placed on these guys, especially when you're talking about a 5-star, like Lamar Brown. And so, if you're looking at it from the LSU perspective, and from what I hear is that it's not a situation to where, Texas A&M is offering him this much in NIL opportunities, and LSU has to match that number, that there's a lot of things going on for the home team that would allow them to not have to match that number. And so when you're LSU, I think that's what you're trying to maneuver right now, is trying to see, okay, how else can we illustrate, how else can we highlight the benefits of coming here, when it's not all about money. You told us in the very beginning, Coach, it's not all about money. It's, my process is not going to be all about money. So how can we point out, the benefits of staying home and going to LSU without making it all about money? And so when you talk about these, these discussions that they're having right now, these conversations they're having with Brown, I think that's a lot of it when you talk in terms of posturing, and it's not necessarily, okay, Texas A&M is offering you this much, here's $1 more, or anything like that.
So question that's impossible to answer, but I'll toss it to you just to get your thoughts. Whoever he commits to tomorrow, does the other school get some sort of unofficial visit for a football game this fall, in your opinion?
I mean, okay, let's say this kid commits to Texas A&M, and now he's in Baton Rouge, he's on LSU's campus and stuff. And I'm trying to think, I'm trying to go back and remember, we've had some U-High kids that have spurned LSU in the past, but I don't really believe any of them have done it this early in the process. Can you correct me on that? Does anyone jump out at you?
Tim Williams, then Jordan Gilbert. Those guys went elsewhere.
Yeah, but do you remember it being a case to where they committed in July and they still had 6 months?
I don't think so. No.
See, that's what I'm trying to recall, and I can't really recall a situation like that.
Obviously, Dylan Moses.
Obviously, Dylan Moses. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Obviously, Dylan Moses, but then he went to IMG. And so I don't think we've ever seen that situation where you've got a U-High kid who goes to school on LSU's campus, and you've got all these all these games and stuff going on and stuff. And, I don't think there's any question. Now, as far as flip it over to, if he commits to LSU, does he make an unofficial visit to Texas A&M? I would think absolutely so. And if he commits to A&M, I think he visits LSU. And the reason being is that, this has been an LSU Texas A&M kind of going back and forth thing for quite a while now. these two schools have been duking it out for him for a long time now. And so if he commits to one of them and you've still got 5 months to go in the process, I think the relationships that he has with both schools and with the coaching staffs on both ends are going to, make it tough for him to not make at least one more unofficial visit. Now, of course, in some of these NIL deals, there's some, there could be some stipulations or whatever as far as that stuff goes, but, I don't think his recruitment is even close to being over, regardless of who he commits to tomorrow.
I know y'all have got crystal balls over there at 24/7. What's your gut tell you as we sit here about 23 hours out?
And right before I came on with you, I was like, okay, I've got to tell my subscribers where I'm sitting on this right now, because I knew we were going to talk about it. And, yesterday around this time, I talked to enough people. I said, I really think it's close. I said, but if you put a gun to my head and you made me pick, I'd feel a little safer picking A&M yesterday. Now, if you did the same thing, I'd feel a little safer picking LSU. And that's why, and you hate to say that, but it's finally you can finally explain why you waffle back and forth and why kids waffle back and forth late in the game like this. It's because, hey, you're getting better offers, you're getting more opportunities, you're getting more money and stuff. If you'd have said that 4 years ago, man, Shannon Terry would have been wanting to fire me.
I get it, and it's one of those deals where I feel like this is me being very, very green to the game, but I feel like the fact that the insiders don't have a real handle on it tells me that neither staff probably has a real handle on it, which also, if I'm just going to deduce that down, means he probably hasn't made promises to either staff that he is not going to follow through on. He's just kind of taking his time, which to me is pretty admirable, but I'm just reading it from a long way away.
No, and I think that's pretty, and I think that's pretty accurate. I don't think. From everyone that I've talked to, inside, outside the building, I have not heard one person who's told me that, look, LeVar Brown has told LSU, it's going to be them. And flipping it over, talking to people who have some of those same connections on the A&M side, they don't, they may feel good, but they don't feel like he's in the bag or anything like that, And so I really think that, I think if you're looking at it, I think A&M is probably more worried than LSU is right now, just because they know how hard it is to get a Louisiana kid out that LSU wants. But they've done it in the past. Look, Speedy Noel comes back to mind in 2014. He was a guy LSU really wanted. He went to A&M. But if you're LSU, I think you go into it a little more optimistic than pessimistic, just because at the end of the day, while Texas A&M may have more money on the table, do they check as many boxes as LSU checks with everything outside of that? Your family, all of those variables.
Yeah. We'll be following along tomorrow. All your recruiting coverage, your team coverage, you can find it over there. Go 24/7. Sonny and the team over there with Glenn doing an awesome job. Sonny, we appreciate some time, and we'll be tuned in tomorrow.
Absolutely, brother. You have a good one, man.
You too. That is Sonny Shipp. And I honestly, truly mean that. Obviously, y'all know I want Lamar Brown to pick LSU because he's a very highly recruited player. Looks like he's going to be a great one, and I'd like him to stay home and play for LSU because that's a team that I like. And I don't like A&M at all, and I wouldn't like it if he played for A&M and did great things there. That's just because that's what my rooting interest lies in. But really, to me, as a person, if I try to strip down those layers that are purple and gold and go, okay, just look at this objectively, the only thing you can really do to me that is, and I use air quotes here, wrong, would be to promise one thing and then pull the rug out at the end. If you do that, that's not, in my estimation, the best way to handle yourself. Now, these are 16, 17, 18-year-olds, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, especially when there's a lot of money involved, can do things that I don't think are the most ethical things in the world. And that's just part of being a kid. But it is what it is. If you just go through the recruiting process and pick one school over the other one, and it happens to be Texas A&M instead of LSU, that's not wrong. I wish it would have gone a different way. And it sounds like, as I just speaking to this specifically, when a high school recruit tells college coaches what he's going to do, that information gets out. It does. I know enough people in this business, they can get to the bottom of it. And nobody has gotten to the bottom of this one yet. Nobody. So to me, that suggests Lamar Brown has not promised anything to either side. And that's admirable in my estimation. You go through the process, you go on your visits. He's been to A&M a billion times. He's been to LSU every day, literally, of his high school career. And you just make that decision. Most of you that are listening to this radio station want it to go one way, but if he commits to Texas A&M and goes there elsewhere, like that's a huge bummer for LSU fans, but it seems like it's been handled the right way. It seems like he's done things properly, and that's an admirable thing for somebody in his position. So appreciate Sonny for jumping aboard and helping us out with some recruiting. If you just jumped in the car and you heard that interview or maybe just the end of it, you're in luck because we're not going to go to commercial here because we had some technical difficulties at the front end of the show, and then we went to a break, and then we went to a break early. So we've still got some time in this hour without a break, so we're just going to dive right in to What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
Alrighty, first one here. What if the SEC decided to go back to divisions?
We'd have to shake some things up, or you'd have to really, really mess up the geography. Like you'd have to have either Texas or Oklahoma in the East with Missouri who's in the East. And if you were just going to tag one to each, like you're geographically just like throwing everything off. Or you could add Texas and Oklahoma to the West and then shove Auburn into the East, and you would then have what I would call pretty competitive divisions that align geographically, but you would split Auburn from LSU and Auburn from Alabama in a division, and then you'd have to figure out scheduling. And if Auburn wanted to play Georgia and Alabama wanted to play Tennessee, and then you had to do crossovers, like it would be messy. It would be easier to crown a division champion, and it would be easier to deal with tiebreakers to get to the SEC championship game, which we were doing a bunch of those gymnastics in late November last year because of all the teams that are in the race to try to get it. And then you got to go through a bunch of tiebreakers, and we were looking, well, what if LSU's tied with A&M, who's tied with South Carolina, who's tied with Bama, and then Ole Miss is in there, and like, what do we do? So it would be doable, but you would probably have to shove Auburn into the East.
Yeah, either way, there's going to be problems. Whether you have divisions or whether we have what we have now, we're going to have situations like last year plenty of times where we're going to have to go through these different tiebreakers. There may be a coin flip at some point. That'll be interesting, but...
I mean, you could also add Missouri to the West and shove Bama into the East, and then then you'd have Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, and Auburn on one side, and then LSU, Texas, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss on the other side. It'd be interesting.
Yeah. All right, next one. What if LSU wins 4 more national championships in baseball over the next 15 years, and Jay Johnson is the head coach the entire time, which is what we all expect?
So he'd have 6. He'd be the most accomplished head coach in the modern era. I mean, Rod Dedeaux won a lot of national championships in a whole different world, but Jay Johnson would be, to me, spoken in the same light as Nick Saban, in the same light as, Gino
Auriemma.
Yeah. I mean, Gino Auriemma, sure. Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski, like that's the type of air you would be swimming in there. I mean, he would be in consideration for the greatest coach in the history of the sport if he won 6 national championships in 18 years. I mean, he would have one more than Skip. So, I mean, Skip built it from nothing, so you'd have to give Skip a ton of credit for that, obviously. And I'm not saying he supplants Skip, but he certainly joins that conversation. I mean, if we're just playing the what if game, that's the way that goes.
All right, next one. What if Myers is a top 150 baseball prospect coming out of high school?
This is off Twitter. His odds aren't very good based on genes. Dad fielded 0 phone calls from college coaches, not even D2 or JUCO or NAIA. So we got the best NAIA program in the country in LSU.
That's true.
Just
the pilots.
Just 19 years later. If he's a top 150 baseball prospect coming out of high school, that'd be a lot of fun. I would enjoy watching him play a ton. The odds are not very good at that, but I would hope that he would go to LSU and play there. If that was the case.
Look, he's on the right path right now. He is trying to play as much backyard baseball as he possibly can.
I'll tell you what, Space Jam is cutting into the backyard baseball currently. There is
still
a lot of Space Jam.
Still going strong on the Space Jam?
It's usually those are 4-week obsessions, and this is only week 2.
Oh wow! So you're right in the middle of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not using hyperbole at all. He's watched it 25 times in a week and a half. It's every second he's not doing something. He's still riding his bike, still eating dinner, taking a bath. Like we're going to school. He's doing swimming lessons. It's not like he comes home and sits on the couch like a couch potato all day. But in the times like when he's drinking his milk before bed or like winding down, or when he wakes up right in the morning and we're trying to get the house settled, it's Space Jam every time.
All right, next one here. What if the offensive line is average? What is the ceiling?
It's not very high. If you have an average offensive line, you don't run the ball very well, and you don't protect Garrett Nussmeier to the extent that he needs to be protected, and you allow that pressure to get to him, which has forced some bad decisions. A couple against Ole Miss, a couple against Texas A&M, one bad turnover against Alabama. Like he got some pressure on the pick 6 that he got called back against South Carolina. So if your offensive line is mediocre, you're a 8-4 team, 7-5 team. Like you need really good offensive line play to make this thing hum, because the offense is supposed to be the best part of what you're doing. And if you lose the line of scrimmage half the time, more than half the time, your offense isn't going to be able to fix it. Now, Nussmeier can make some third down plays. We saw that last year when LSU was as good on third down as anybody in the country. So it's not going to be a death knell to the entire season where you go 1-7 in the league. But you need the offensive line to step up and play. Like this group does not function without that.
Yeah, you have to be able to run the ball. You really couldn't. You had a few moments where you could last year, but consistently wasn't there. So that really has to be a big part of the offense this year if they're going to win a lot of games. Next one, what if we don't get one of these 2027 quarterbacks in the high school ranks, that is?
So you're looking at the Houston kid out of Evangel. You're looking at Colton Nussmeier. You're looking at Elijah Haven.
Yeah, Elijah Haven, yep.
It was coming. Just takes a second on the old live radio. They don't get any of them. That's a bummer because you've got significant connections to 3 of the best high school quarterbacks in the country. One's brother played for you for 5 years. One has grown up down the street. The other one is in the state and at a high school that has been very good to LSU over the years. Guys like Gabe Relaford and Jacob Hester comes to mind. Also, Chase Pittman, also Jamari Rasco. Like, you've gotten some good players out of Evangel. So that would be a huge bummer. There are other quarterbacks in the class, so maybe you fill that with a guy that we're not talking about right now that's just as good, who blossoms in his junior year this year. Or you go to the portal and you got to figure something out there. But I like the idea of getting a high school quarterback into the mix. And if you've got access to 3 of the best in the country, you need to close the deal on at least one of them. And I think that there's a good chance that LSU will.
All right, last one. What if the Cubs rescue Paul Skeens from Pittsburgh?
That would be excellent.
It would be, but it's definitely not even possible because.
Well, sir, it is. If he goes to free agency, which he is.
Okay, but the Cubs are not going to be able to. You think the Cubs are going to be able to put up as high of a dollar amount as the Yankees or the Dodgers?
They need to,
but they're not.
They should. They have the money.
They do, but what have we seen, Hunt? What have we seen the Ricketts family do in terms of these?
The question was not will they do it. The question was what if they do.
Yeah, that's true.
So you answered the question directly. It would be so awesome.
It would be.
Jay Johnson is churning out pros at an unbelievable level right now. They're just flying through systems. So the odds are the Cubs are going to get one of these guys eventually.
Yeah.
But Skeens would be the one to get. He's pretty good.
All right, that's it.
All right, this has been quite a long segment here.
It has.
On this Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Contact my guy, Joey Blanchard. Get into the pool of your dreams. He's with you every step of the way. He's the owner of the company. He's with you every step of the way. So you sit down with Joey. You go through his incredible software that's 3D and allows you to look over your dream pool design foot by foot to scale. Want to add an outdoor kitchen to that? He can do it as well. When you decide to dig, Joey's there. When you decide to fill, Joey's there. Maybe doing some of the digging if somebody takes a lunch break. And then when the job is done, Joey's there. It's a great feeling when you work with a company that is local
and the owner of that company is with you every step of the way. So you know that you're not going to have any issue with customer service. Anything that arises over the course of your plan, whether it's the design, the dig, the filling, the finish, all that, Joey can help you with it. Go check out some of their work at builtbyrenaissance.com. It's Renaissance Homes and Pools, builtbyrenaissance.com. All right, come back and close it out next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Do something simple. Tub to shower conversion. It's the bread and butter of what One Bath and Closets does. If you've got a tub that doesn't function, that's ugly, that you don't use, that's dingy, get rid of it. A gorgeous new shower can completely transform your bathroom. You spend a lot of time in there. Add some value to your home, transform the aesthetic and the functionality of your bathroom with that gorgeous glass walk-in shower. It's not overly time-consuming. It's not overly invasive. It can be cost-effective, and there's financing available, 0% up to 18 months if you qualify for that. David Duvall's been doing this for 30 years. Let him sit down with you and talk you through what your new bathroom can look like. They do vanities. They do flooring, help with the plumbing. They got a master plumber on staff. Contact One Bath and Closets. Put your new bathroom of your dreams in your home. It's One Bath and Closets. Find them online at onebathandclosets.com.
Lowe's knows July 4th savings are worth celebrating. Right now, get up to 40% off select major appliances and get an additional 10% off 2 or more select major appliances. Plus, get 3 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. These deals are coming in hot. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Closing out hour number 1 here. Got a lot to do in hour number 2. Robot umps, more recruiting talk, because there's another announcement tomorrow outside of Lamar Brown, and then we'll talk about Joey McGuire's thoughts from Big 12 Media Day about LSU and Texas Tech and a home and home. But we'll finish with some Saints news today. Exciting news for Saints fans as they unleashed their new alternate helmet. 10 o'clock this morning, Saints social media team blasted it out. Seen some Saints alternates over the past decade that have been big hits. The Color Rush have been a big hit from the uniform perspective. The throwbacks look great, even if the helmet doesn't quite match. And they go with the black helmets that were alternate that were atrocious.
Okay,
just
but
embarrassing and offensive.
Before you give us your thoughts on this,
yes.
Let me play this real quick.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Hunt Palmer Show. Here's your host, Hunt, the uniform czar, Palmer. Which uniform do you hate now?
So I'm assuming that most of you who have heard my rants on LSU's alternate uniforms and alternate helmets will think he's going to think this is terrible too. And I was going to give it every chance. So I look at it, I evaluate, and I give my opinion, which is, as we all know, correct. These are okay. The white helmets are okay. I need to see it on the full Color Rush uniform. I like the gold traditional helmets better, but these are okay. It's a different look with the gold fleur-de-lis as opposed to the black fleur-de-lis. And I like the traditional helmet with the Color Rush, but this might look good. It's got the gold face mask, got the gold fleur-de-lis, the white helmets. The black helmets they came out in were just atrocious. The billion fleur-de-lis down the middle, they wore them with the Color Rush. It just completely ruined the entire aesthetic. It was awful. These, I think, have a chance to look pretty damn good. I like when the Saints wear their traditional gold pants, gold helmets. I don't like the black, lineless pants that look like tights to me. I don't like when they've gone all black with those. But if you're going to go with the Color Rush and you're going to go with the white helmet, I think this is a pretty good look. I don't love the fact that it's got a lot of dots all over it, but those are going to be completely invisible from a distance. So to me, like, this works. I think it's going to look good. I think the Saints have a cool color combination within the NFL. You don't see anybody else that looks similar to them. So it's not as if you're going to steal their brand away from them by putting this white helmet on. I think if you did something crazy to like the Steelers helmet, I don't think I would like that. But the Saints, I think it just kind of offers a little bit of a different vibe. And I am here for that. So I think the Saints have made some missteps on uniforms over the years. I think they've had some big time hits. I don't know that this is either one of them, but if we're putting this on like a 0 is atrocious and 100 is the best you could possibly do, this is like a 75. I think it's good. I think it looks good. I think it's going to look good. I'm a little bit like projecting there because I don't know what it's going to look exactly like with the Color Rush uniforms. And I'm sure somebody in the Photoshop world has already jumped to that and thrown it together. But I am pleasantly surprised at my feelings toward this alternate because most alternates are terrible in my eyes. These, not awful. Beck?
Yeah, I like them. I do want to see. Yeah, I'm sure there's already people that have already gotten this photoshopped. In fact, I'm seeing a few photos of some. They're not exactly perfect, but you get the idea from seeing
Getting some amateurs out there throwing it together.
Yeah, and it looked. Honestly, we can probably get our Photoshop expert Cassie on the job, and it'll probably look pretty good. I think the
gold face mask to me is like a 4 out of 10, where the black face mask to me would be like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree.
It's an accent, so I'm not going to go nuts on that.
Yeah,
I'm more into like the actual pronounced colors, and to me, the actual pronounced colors here, I think, are going to work. The question is, and the Saints have already said on their social media, we're going to wear these with our Color Rush. The question is, do you throw them on with any of the other uniforms?
Yeah,
and that's going to be interesting if they decide to do it. We saw them just use the blacks there with the Color Rush. That was an abomination that I hated. This is good, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, could they wear the white helmet with the black the away uniforms potentially?
If they go black with black pants and you just accent it,
I don't know if that works.
I don't love it.
Yeah, I don't know if that works.
And look, I'm just going off of I withhold my right to change if I see the whole thing. But I've already seen the black helmet with the Color Rush and the whole thing. Never again. And it's good. It's good that they address that pretty quickly. Because, like I said yesterday, before they revealed this, the two like big uniform changes the Saints have made have been the Color Rush and then the throwbacks. And the problem with the throwback is that the helmet didn't match, but it still looked good.
That's what I was hoping for. I wasn't sure what they were going to do. I was kind of hoping we maybe get the throwback helmet, but this is good too.
The throwback helmet is so different. It's so similar.
It is very similar.
You're just looking at a different tone. And if we're trying, which I believe the thought here is to have folks buy this helmet and to display it in offices and in living rooms and in studies and wherever around, like, you're not going to buy the alternate. You're not going to buy the throwback and the normal one. They're just too similar. You got to do something different. Black didn't work. I think that white does work. And I think the thing that I like the most is that you change the color of the fleur-de-lis. Like, if you would have gone black fleur-de-lis with the gold outline like you will see on the normal helmet, I don't think it pops quite as much.
Yeah, I agree.
This is just a different look, and I like it. And for those that are sitting there listening going, well, LSU put a white helmet and you hated it. Well, there's a whole branding thing at play there that I don't think applies to the Saints, that more so applies to LSU. And that's my reasoning for that. And I don't think the Saints have to worry about that as much in a smaller league. And so this, to me, works. You got black and gold. Nobody else is black and gold. You got it figured out. I like it. So the Saints going in with an alternate helmet. I think it works. So that's it for hour number 1. Appreciate y'all hanging with us here on a Wednesday. About half that work week is in that rear view mirror. Got a lot to do in hour number 2, including one more commitment LSU might get tomorrow in addition to Lamar Brown, and then Joey McGuire talking about home and home with a Big 12 team. We'll do all that after our national headlines and Sports Center. Come back with us. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. I tell you this every day, but it bears repeating every day. The people you're going to work with at Genesis of Baton Rouge are just phenomenal. And it's all part of the experience of driving a luxury vehicle. You walk over to the dealership, airline at Piku, and you're going to be approached graciously as a guest. And they're going to ask you how they can help. They're not going to be pushy. They're not going to try to upsell you. They're not going to try to confuse you and pressure you. That can happen at car dealerships. It's not going to happen at Genesis of Baton Rouge. And then you'll get behind the wheel of the Genesis of Baton Rouge, and that brand ambassador will help you test drive it, whether it's at the dealership or remotely at your office or home. And they'll walk you through the purchasing process. If you decide, okay, this is what I want, well, that's perfect. They do digital contracts and delivery. You don't even have to set foot on the lot, but the people will help you through the process. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Work with them. Find them online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
Lowe's knows July 4th savings are worth celebrating. Right now, get up to 40% off select major appliances and get an additional 10% off 2 or more select major appliances. Plus, get 3 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. These deals are coming in hot. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.